Hugh Hewitt. If you've listened to this program for a long time in the ReliefFactor.com studio inside the Beltway, you know I care about the uranium cycle. I believe we have a strategic failure on the part of many administrations with regard to uranium enrichment cycle, beginning with mining, including its turning into gas, and including that its enrichment to the highest levels and its unobligation so it's available to every aspect of American national security. I come to find out that Stephen Moore, senior economist at the Heritage Foundation, where he's the Distinguished Visiting Fellow for Economic Growth, agrees with me, and the president should be getting a memorandum in a week about this. So I wanted to get breaking news before it breaks. Stephen Moore, welcome to the Hugh Hewitt Show. Great to have you on.
Hi, Hugh. I guess great minds think alike.
Well, let's walk through this because I read your paper, and I have long believed in more mining, more conversion to gas, a lot more enrichment, and a lot more strategic stockpile that is unallocated, meaning that we cannot give it to the Europeans if they demand it. It's got to be available to us. Do you agree with every step of that form?
Yeah, I do, and I think we're in a dangerous situation today, and it's getting worse with each passing week. So what's happened is, let's talk just more generally for a minute about mining. The fact is there are something like 30 or 40, precious metals, rare earth metals that are needed for everything from the cell phone that I'm talking on to, to flat top TVs, to medical innovations, to, windmills and wind turbines. All of that are dependent on these precious metals. And right now, Hugh, we're importing about 95% of these. And what's a shame about this is that the United States is the most mineral and metal resource-rich country in the world. I mean, you go to Wyoming and Montana and California and Colorado, states, those mountain states, they have gigantic amounts. We estimate $5 to $6 trillion worth of minerals that we are able to get, with existing technologies, and yet we're importing it because it's been so difficult to build mines in the United States. The environmental rules make it very difficult. Just give you one example. It takes, in Australia and Canada, maybe 3 or 4 years to open up a mine. In the United States, it takes 10 to 12 years.
And that is only the first step. We need to get the mining back on track because, again, let's explain to people why we need, let's focus on uranium. Uranium powers not only reactors, it powers every carrier. It powers our nuclear weaponry, and who knows what else we need it for. And right now we're importing it, and we don't need to. That's
right. Now, look, we import a lot of it from Canada, so I'm not too worried about Canada, but I am worried. What really prompted my study was I was looking at where we're getting increasing amounts of our uranium from. And by the way, you're right. We need them both for our national security. We also need them for our nuclear energy plant and nuclear power plants, which, we may be using more of in the future because nuclear energy emits no greenhouse gases. And so in any case, we're at a situation right now where an increasing amount of our imports are coming from Russia and Kazakhstan, which are not friendly countries in the United States. And incidentally, Hugh, China is now getting in the game. China now wants to, export uranium to us. And think about that. So two of our greatest, adversaries, we're going to get our uranium from them? I mean, do you think that they're a reliable source?
They're not. And when we begin, when we get uranium out of the mine, which comes from Wyoming, Montana, California, or Canada, we have to convert it to gas, and then we have to enrich it, which is a complicated process to get it available. And we have to have it unobligated, meaning it's available for our stockpile. I think the president put out a memo in July, and he gave his national security team 90 days to come up with options.
That's right.
What do you think? What does the president, what should he do? What should be recommended to him? Because I think they ought to recommend mining right away, big investment in conversion, big investment in enrichment, and it's all got to be unobligated.
I agree with that, and I think this has to be declared a kind of national emergency crisis. We're talking about, one of the most important minerals that we have out there, uranium. We have plenty of it. It's not as if, we don't have the asset. We do have the asset. We just have to allow American mining. Again, there's only 1 or 2 uranium mines open now today in the United States. It's all coming from foreigners. It is a national security threat, so the president is going to have to take action. And I believe he will, Hugh. I think he is going to take action to reopen American mining for uranium. Incidentally, one other quick thing. Why in the world is the left against nuclear power? Nuclear power is the cleanest form of energy out there. It emits zero greenhouse gases. If the left were really truly concerned about stopping climate change, we would be building 50 nuclear power plants in the United States.
We would also be doing mini reactors. I had Dan Brulette
That's right.
on. We had Dan Brulette, who's the Deputy Secretary of Energy, and I was hitting him on the other end on enrichment because I think the enrichment being done by the Europeans in New Mexico is not American enrichment. We don't want European enrichment. We want American enrichment. We've shut down I asked Mitch McConnell about this. We shut down the entire American enrichment industry. This is nuts. This is absolutely nuts. And mini reactors, what if we could have taken a mini reactor to Puerto Rico, a safe reactor in a box, and that's what the newest technology is, just like computers. They're completely safe. Puerto Rico wouldn't have had to wait 11 months for power. They would have power right away.
Yeah, that's, I think, the next big thing in energy. Now, look, obviously, a really cheap natural gas. I see the energy future for the United States as being natural gas, which is incredibly abundant and cheap. And then you combine that with nuclear energy, and both of those actually reduce carbon emissions in the United States. So they're clean forms of energy. But it's amazing to me the left is holding up the two forms of energy that are safest for the environment. And I do like this idea of, I'm not an expert on this, but I've been reading a lot about these new micro reactors, and that means you have a lot more safety because you're not talking about a 3-mile island type of massive nuclear reactor. You're talking about small reactors that could provide enough electricity for maybe a town of 50 or 100,000 people. It's safe, it's efficient, it's clean, and it should be made in America.
Yeah, and I tell you right now, this whatever Rick Perry recommends and gets through the National Security Council process, the president ought to jump on it. I think it could be a signature initiative of his tenure. If he gets America back into the nuclear game, back into the Iranian game, the energy is freedom, I think it's a signature achievement.
I like that idea, and also I would just add to that too that there was a scandal obviously with Hillary Clinton and Uranium One, which was given to the Russians. I think is also for political reasons. Donald Trump wants to be able to say, hey, we now have a domestic capacity, for our uranium, and we're not. He doesn't want a news headline saying the United States is after 4 years of Trump's presidency still dependent on Russia for our uranium. It's a bad headline, and it's bad policy.
It's a terrible policy. So what do you know about what Rick Perry is going to recommend and when he's going to recommend it? Because it seems to me this has been a black box, and I don't mean to joke because of the micro reactors. It just seems to me to be a black box that we have not pursued with vigor.
I think Rick Perry is all in. I had a conversation with him about a month ago about this, and he was in full agreement. Now, Rick Perry is a guy who comes from Texas, and that's an oil and gas state, so he likes fossil fuels. And I'm a big fan of fossil fuels too. I mean, I view a future where the United States continues to be the world leader in oil, gas, coal, nuclear. We should be dominant in all those areas. We saw what happened when the Saudi oil fields were bombed, and the price of oil went from like $55 a barrel to $67 a barrel. If it had not been for the fracking revolution in the United States, our shale oil and gas, the price of oil would have probably gone to $100 a barrel, and people would be paying $5 or $6 a gallon for gas. So our energy independence is a big part of our economic and national security future.
Yeah, it is indeed. Stephen Moore, always a pleasure to talk to you. Can I very quickly switch subjects on you? And I want people to go and read your paper on the nuclear cycle and understand we got to mine, we got to convert, we got to enrich, and we got to be independent. But I want to ask you about Brexit. Boris Johnson, not minutes ago, gave his speech at the Manchester party gathering. He says we're going out. We got plenty of great exports, including Nigel Farage. Unfortunately, come back. Good joke by Boris Johnson. I like Nigel Farage, but it was a good joke. But he's right. I think it can become the Singapore of the Atlantic. I think it can get just boom. What do you think?
You mean when they move out of
yes.
the European Union?
Yes.
Look, I've been in favor of this from the very, very start. It's been, 3.5 years now. The Europeans are putting up every obstacle to allowing the UK to get out. What I favor, Hugh, is immediately, as soon as the Brits leave the European Union, I want a United States United Kingdom free trade deal where the United States were, in a closer trade relationship with them. They don't need to be dependent on Europe. They should be dependent and have a closer alliance with the United States of America. We're the one economy that's booming in the world. None of the other countries. Europe isn't growing. They've been basically flatlined economically for the last 3 or 4 years.
Now we have to parachute in everyone who can get a trade deal done right away. Last question: is the tax cut working?
You better believe it is. So I had a piece in the Wall Street Journal on Monday that showed that these are blockbuster numbers, Hugh. I mean, I listen to your show, by the way, every morning when I'm driving into work, so you talk a lot about the economy. And it's so interesting to me that, the line by Elizabeth Warren and Bernie Sanders, only the rich and the big corporations have benefited from the tax cut. Well, the numbers just came out from the Census Bureau. And are you sitting down, Hugh? Because these are gigantic numbers. And what they show is that for the average middle-class family, since Donald Trump was elected or took office in January of 2017 through July of 2019, median middle-class family incomes are up $4,100. And in the entire Obama 8 years in office, incomes only went up $1,000. So
wow,
gigantic increase, huge increase, and it's the reason Donald Trump is going to get reelected because
listen to this.
President.
This is Mark Zuckerberg yesterday talking about Elizabeth Warren presidency. I want you to hear his quote, cut number 4.
Like Elizabeth Warren, who thinks that the right answer is to break up the companies. If she gets elected president, then I would bet that we will have a legal challenge, and I would bet that we will win the legal challenge. So does that still suck for us? Yeah. I mean, I don't have to have a major lawsuit against our own government. I mean, that's not like the position that you want to be in when you're, it's like we care about our country and like want to work with our government to do good things. And but look, at the end of the day, if someone's going to try to threaten something that existential, you go to the mat and you fight.
It would be an existential threat. I believe not just Elizabeth Warren, Bernie Sanders. Every Democrat would be an existential threat to the market. I believe Stephen Moore. Do you agree?
Yeah, I mean, it's certainly Elizabeth Warren, certainly Bernie Sanders, certainly Kamala Harris. These ideas of wealth taxes, increasing taxes on businesses, the idea of breaking up these companies. What's so ironic about this is you look at the leaders of these high-tech companies like Zuckerberg and some of these other companies like Amazon. They're all headed by kind of liberal Democrats. And now they're looking at what the liberal Democrats want to do, and they're saying, "My God, this would destroy our companies." Yeah.
Finally, they're waking up. They are waking up. Yeah. Stephen Moore of the Heritage Foundation, great work on uranium enrichment cycle. I appreciate it very much. Thank you, my friend. Also appreciate your listening